we've got the event this weekend down at the museum. I'm actually looking forward to it, dude. It's gonna be cool. Like, we rented the museum, which is cool, and then yeah, it's just gonna be cool, dude. Like it. I'm like, I have like a hopeful expectation for it, you know.
Are you normally not looking forward to it?
It's a good question. I don't know. I've only done a few of them. I
What
like
do you mean you don't know?
What's that?
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. I look at it as like an experiment more than anything. Like, I don't see it as like a thing I'm excited about or looking forward to. It's like I'm curious about it because I never know like what's gonna come from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the first one we did in New York, it was in like this loft, and then like here in San Diego is at my house, then down at the museum again, and each one has been really different. Like, one I would just like talk it, like here I'd just listen. Another would be like lots of free time. Another would be like, so what do you guys want to talk about? So I like experimenting with all of it. So that's really it, dude. Like, I'm just focused on that right now. And
which one did you enjoy the most?
probably the last one down at the museum. So we're just going to do that again, but refine it a little bit more, to leave more room for, I guess, experimentation, honestly.
Which one do you have more, when you look back on, you have the most pride about?
The last one, for sure.
Okay. So the last one was the most fun, and you were also the most proud of it as well, right?
Oh, 100%, yeah. And this one, I think I will exceed that, but we'll have to see.
Do you have something structured for it, or do you think you're going to go more the free-flowing direction?
No, I got to find my notepad. It'll be more free-flowing. Yeah. It'll be more free-flowing, less structured.
Is there anything top of mind that you really want them to grasp, or that you really want to share with them?
Sure. I think this very thing, like blurring the lines of like what's work, what's life, you know, like when do you start, when do you stop, like what's the agenda, what's not the agenda, you know, like I want to get the most out of it, you know, that it's just like an energy play. You know what I mean? It's like, I was like literally just making a video like right before I jumped on this call with you. Like, I really like the idea of contrast. Like, if somebody is corporate or whatever and they're used to Zoom calls and it's like they schedule 20-minute chunks here and there and okay, here's the agenda, okay, let me get into it. I like to match that with the like opposite energy, which is like I'm late and I'm audio only and I'm on the beach walking and I don't have a hard stop, and if they come in heavy with agenda, I go, oh, you know, I like to contrast it, you know? So yeah. I'm just feeling the psyche, I guess, of like everybody. And I feel like it's a good mix. It's like people who are really frantic for sure. And then there's folks who are like, I'm just like have hopeful expectation and like, I don't know what to expect. And that's cool with me. Right. And I'm like trying to create the conditions that where both people feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean, dude?
Is there a reason behind that? So like, for example, when you contrast it,
yeah, is
there a reason behind contrasting it? Are you doing it because you feel rebellious, or are you doing it because some other reason?
I don't know. I'm definitely haven't thought about it, but you know who brought this up to me first was actually John and Laura, you know, of like AJ and Smart. When he was here, he's like a brand, he's like a design guy, like a brand guy. I wish I could find it, dude. Like, he's like, hey Blake, I sent you this like one pager of like what I thought about you that I didn't know before we hung out. And his like number one thing was like contrast. I'm like, wait, what is that? he's like, and he wrote it all out. He's like, you like, you think that you're like an atheist secularist, but you're like orthodox and like religious and all this, and or
What do you mean you think you're atheist?
he would like think that or assume that, like, or that I'm like a secularist or like a total liberal kind of, I don't know, like, but like if you look under the hood, I don't have any of that. And then it's like I'm barefoot, but if I do wear shoes, they're like Gucci loafers. It's like the G-Wagon and then the old Porsche, and then like I don't know. He just was identifying all these contrasts, and I think it's just I don't know. I hate talking about myself so much, but like it's just my style, and so I don't know why that is, but I love doing that. I love having contrast in any sort of room. Or if I'm like meeting somebody, I'll try to counterbalance that. Dude, it's like sales. It's like a sales call. It's like if their energy's coming in hot with something, you like. You want to connect for sure, like, you know, meet them, but you also want to like bring, you know what I mean? If they're frantic,
I know, I do the
down.
contrast thing too, but I do it as more like a balancing act of the energy. So, for example, I feel kind of like what they're missing to be like on a evenness, and then I just add that other thing. So if they're really fiery and like that, I'll be really calm and quiet. And if they're really calm and quiet, I'll be the really like fiery guy, you know, in social situations. So I just kind of fill in what's needed to even it out.
Like on sales calls, you'll do that?
It like everything. Like you know, if I have a singing student and they're like some heavy metal dude, I'll make them sing like Disney ballads and stuff.
So you're trying to balance, like, so you're adding the other side.
Yeah, I'm looking at the thing they're missing, like things that they're biased towards.
Right.
And then they're missing these other things because they don't look there because they're biased towards this thing. And so they're like this way, and I add this thing to tip them this way, if that makes sense. And that could be in all kinds of different ways.
Right.
It could be in whether it's like physical therapy or singing or like just social interaction, you know.
I've noticed that about you, like with the sales stuff. Like if somebody comes in hot and excited, you'll be very stoic and blunt and cold to like kind of knock them off or something, like right out the gate. You'll make them feel like, wait, should I have not done that? Because this dude is like not matching me there, you know?
The reason isn't to like confuse them though.
Right.
That's not the reason why I do it. Yeah. But to kind of go into that, like, for example, if I'm doing a coaching call, right? And I got a student, he's like really firing, like, you know, like up and up and up. And
Right.
I'll like lower the volume of my speaking voice so that they have to like come in to hear me because those kinds of people struggle with listening. They're very loud, and then you have to be louder so that they can hear you, you know, and they'll talk over you and everything. So I won't play into that so much if I can. Sometimes you gotta like kind of over strengthen them a little bit if they're not responding, but I'll try to bring them into me. And then there are some people that kind of shut down, and you have to kind of, you know, like, all right, come on, let's go. Boom. Let's do it, dude. You have to like turn on and reach them, right? Shake them up because they're not responsive.
Yeah, but I've noticed you do it like you'll sometimes embody it, like you'll be excited, or you'll just flat out like say it or like call them out. You'll literally be like, why are you so non-responsive? What's going on? And like you'll just call it out. You know?
Yeah. I guess I have to see like where they're at and what they can see if, you know, I guess it just depends on the situation. It's not kind of calculated. It just kind of I just feel it and I just go to wherever that is,
Right. Yeah.
Is that similar to your contrast thing, or is it different? Or
I'm trying to think about that. I think when you're like, it's not to piss them off or it's not to confuse them. I'm like, I feel like I do it to confuse, like I do it to confuse.
I used to do it to be rebellious. So like,
Right.
and I realized that was a pattern I had. Like, it was kind of like with my mother or something,
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's not why I do it now.
Right.
It's, yeah. But that's when I was like young, that's kind of what I would do. I guess it was almost like it stems from like, someone's pushing this way on you. So then you're just like, oh, all right, well, I'm going to go the other way kind of thing.
I have a feeling it's more of that for me. Like, unfortunately, like it's embarrassing to admit that, but it's like when the whole COVID stuff was happening in New York, 99.99999% of people just kind of like, at a certain point, there was a threshold of like, I won't do that. I won't do that. I won't do that. And I would play out every scenario in my mind, right? Like, what if they shut down planes? What if they shut down? I could always like, you know what I mean? Like, I could always find like a way to just maneuver around it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, literally, what's the worst that can happen? Like, if I 100% defiant or something like this, like, what is that going to do? And I played out the worst case scenario, and I'm like, I dare somebody to play that out on me. Like, so I think there's the rebelliousness in me. And honestly, I think that's being redeemed, or it's like not so much that'll be like a remnant about me. But I think that's where it comes from, is this rebellious kind of like, there's no way that like you can control this environment right now. Like, honestly, I feel like that's at the root of why I've been like conditioned to act like that. Yeah.
Do you feel like triggered in a conversation and then respond that way? Like, for example,
Right.
you get triggered and then you want to flip it the other way, kind of. Do you get that at all? 'Cause that's what I used to get.
Totally don't
when I
get
was young.
triggered. It's not like I'm like nervous or not, and like, whoa, I'm offended by that. It's totally like any environment, any conversation I can be very comfortable in, because I know that I can resort to contrasting, and that disarms, basically. It's like a disarming thing, So I don't know if I would say that I get triggered by it. The opposite, it feels, is it's like a challenge. It's like I feel like I can really blend into wherever I need to be through that,
Yeah. I use it to, like, when I'm saying there, as a balancing thing. So it's to
Right.
bring people closer, not
to push them away. Yeah.
Which is the way I would have done it as a child, would have been to create a gap between me and whoever, I felt was like disrespecting me or invading my space.
Totally.
Yeah.
But dude, I was literally on a call, Jameson, he like hooked me up with a friend of his, and was on a call with him. Jameson's like, just talk to him. I think he needs your help or whatever. And the dude's successful. He's making like a couple $100,000 last month, top line, and not so much bottom line, but top line. So he's obviously got something going on in like a creative field. And he came in hot with where he's used to he's on sales call all day. So it's like, do you want me to send a Zoom link? Right. And so I felt that. So I'm like, hey, just call my cell phone. Right. Like, let's just do that. And he came in hot, dude. I'm like, hey, what's up? And before I could even say hi, it's, yeah, so here's my problems. And just like came in hot. Right. So
Yeah.
I felt like I really want to help this guy. But like, that's not going to happen unless he jumps in some cold water. So like, let him do its thing, and then like widen the gap by literally saying like, So basically, you just dumped your problems on me, dude. Like, I don't even know your last name. Like, what's going on here? Can we start over? And what did that obviously widened the gap. Like, wait, okay, this isn't going well. But you have to jump in cold water if you really want to like progress. So I think in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I want to help this guy, but like, I can't match him. I have to counteract because it'll draw awareness and I can like help him see things. And ultimately the conversation led to more of an emotional or spiritual one. And that felt comfortable for me because I realized that's, I think, what he needed, honestly. And then I referred him to like a more mechanical coach type guy, honestly. But I think that's what you're getting at is like, you can do that to help somebody, you know, as opposed to just
you're finding a way in to connect with him, right?
Right.
So you felt his energy at the beginning, and you felt it was like closed.
Right.
So him doing all this stuff,
right,
and then creates a pressure of like, oh, he wants me to respond this way, but I can sense he's closed down, so nothing's going to happen here.
Totally, dude.
So I have to find an opening with him where we can meet, and to do that, you shifted, right?
Yeah, but it feels uncomfortable in the moment. It's like the metal guy singing ballet songs or whatever, like Disney songs. Yeah. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But
yes,
it's a way of connecting.
Exactly. So, yes, I think that's the thread. Not that it's contrasting.
Right.
I think that's the vehicle that you're using. But underneath that, it's sensing, how are we going to come together? How am I going to connect with this person? Now, why you do that in other areas like fashion or whatever, no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. There's this philosopher that I really like. He's like in his 90s. Somebody asked, he wrote over 100 books. So I was able to see him down here. Somebody asked him like, how are you able to write so much? And he just said, his name's Dr. Peter Kreeft. He said, I'm not the kind of person who sits and thinks about how I do things. I just do them.
Yeah.
I'm like, why couldn't I say that?
Well, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine if somebody was curious enough to find that out, how he was able to do that, you know?
The thing that's tricky though is the understanding always comes afterwards, doesn't come before.
Right.
If you try to understand something before, you only understand on a like surface mental level. But you have to be in it, you have to be able to do it, and then the understanding comes afterwards. So, you know, if somebody hearing this, somebody behaves this way, okay, I'm going to behave this way instead. If that comes from an informational level,
right,
a rehearse, it's kind of like the dating scene. Oh, how to approach a woman. Well, you go up and you say this thing, and if she says this, you say this back, and then she says something that you didn't rehearse, and then, oh shit, what do I do now?
Right.
Because it's just coming from like an information thing. It's not coming from like, how do I become a person who can be in any situation and can flow, right?
Right.
Like a stand-up comedian an improvisational guy who can just go up there and on the fly, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
That's not something you can just sit down and read some things, rehearse it, and then go up there. And
no. Yeah, I was talking to Patrick about this actually. This or maybe it was on a partner's call. I can't remember. Especially with the rise of AI and stuff, dude. Like, oh, that's what it was. Reading The Psychology of Money. No, it was on a partner's call.
This is what Bruce Lee was getting at, by the way.
What do you mean?
His whole thing about no style. Use no way as way, no style as style. That whole thing. I can't remember if that was the exact quote he used, but
okay.
He was getting at this whole. He was trying to move away from this whole like. People were using kata for the wrong reason. Like the kata that you learn, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it in 3 hours from now. Yeah.
So, you probably know this, but a lot of people rehearse kata and then they actually think, okay, if this guy doesn't move on me, I'm going to do like step 1, step 2, step 3 of this cut. And that's not what it's for. It's basically like a library. It's almost like a VSL or a condensed summary of all of the different things in one like condensed thing, right? But a lot of people were using it as like, oh, these are like steps you use, to fight somebody. And Bruce Lee was saying like, you can't just rehearse these set behaviors of like, oh, if some guy punches me, well, I'll do this, and I'll do this, and I'll come around the side, and I'll hit him there, and I'll come around the side, and I'll hit him there. And he's like, it ain't going to happen like that. You can't rehearse these like long patterns.
What if they punch you with the other arm? Then go back. Right? Go back.
Yeah.
You punched me wrong.
Exactly. So the underlying thing was like, you're ready for whatever comes. And it could come from this angle, it could come from this angle, it could come from this angle, it could come from that angle, and you have to be able to respond to anything, as opposed to rehearsing all of these different combinations and things.
Right. That's so interesting you bring that up, dude. Megan was asking me like, what is kata? Literally this Monday, like 2 days ago, and it's like the level 5, level 1 articulation. It's like, where do I go with her on this? Yeah. But that's one thing I've realized after training all these years. It's like 28 years this year. I feel like I know all the katas, and I got like tournament style good at them. But as I grew into adulthood, like I realized that the kata bunkai, like the application of the kata, that's where it's at. And that I feel like a total baby at, dude. Even though I like know them, seeing my sensei respond or react to any attack and kind of respond in an appropriate way, it's like it's inside of him, but afterwards when he shows us, he'll say, that's from Shisoshin, or that's from Seppai, this, and it's like he's drawing from the application fundamentally by reacting to these techniques or movements. Not so much just memorizing and getting slick with every single movement. And he's super slick with it. But that I'm realizing that like I see all these younger black belts too in class. I'm like 14, 15, 16, whatever. They look slick, man. I mean like just boom, boom. But I can see that there's no actual application or substance underneath it. It's not coming from the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's why I was really shocked when I saw your teacher, because it's very rare that I see that.
Right.
When I saw the way he moves,
right,
I was like, holy shit, I don't see that very often. He's like the real deal.
It's a mystery, yeah. And I just thought it's like what you said, like what use is just standing and doing punches? Like I just thought he just did 1,000 punches every day, but it's not. It's like it's an essence. It's like a deep mechanical like application of something underneath it as opposed to just the technique.
It's called internal structure.
What's it? Internal
structure.
What's that?
So it's a biomechanical thing, but it also goes into the chi energy stuff, the inner alchemy
that we were talking about the other day.
Yeah. So the Tai Chi, how they move really slow.
Right.
That people think like, oh, hey, you're gonna fight slow like that. The purpose isn't what it's really training is the internal structure. If it's done right. I mean, if you don't have a good teacher and you learn Tai Chi, it's just going to be standing there moving really slow for no reason. But the whole idea is to have the energy go to the floor and basically it's called rooting to the floor. And so like if anybody pushes you, instead of it catching you like that, the force goes through the skeletal structure down to the floor, and then they feel like they're pushing something that doesn't want to move. And then you can send that rebound energy back up through their body, and they like bounce off you. You might have felt this with your teacher. Have you ever like tried to like push him and then it kind of like it's like a wall?
Yeah.
You couldn't.
And he's like a little shorter than me. It's like, how is this the case?
And he can just like bounce you
Right.
off, right? You go in and put, and you're like, whoop, and you're like, what the fuck happened?
Right. How do you, I feel like a dummy here. Like, how do you develop that?
The very basic way to do it, it's best to do it with a partner. It's very hard to do it without a partner, but you can demonstrate by yourself with a wall.
Can you like show me?
Yeah, but I'm gonna mess up this camera angle.
Don't worry about the camera. Nobody needs to see this. I just want to see this.
Well, I don't know if you can see me.
I can see you. Yeah.
Let me spin this around. All right, the best way, just the easy way to test it, like a very basic concept is like, if I come to this wall and push, it pushes me back.
Right.
Because the force of the wall goes through to my shoulder. I'll do this arm. Goes through the shoulder joint and pushes me out this way, like that, like that. If I just change the vector of force from straight to a triangle shape, I can direct it through the joint of my hip like this. And now when I push, I don't get sent back so much, right? Because the angle is coming from my leg like a triangle force is going up into the wall. Make sense?
Totally.
Now if I break that structure and then bring this foot here and then I lose that upwards angle, suddenly I get blown back this way. Like that. Oh, shit. So the easiest way to think about it is, imagine if you're pushing something, you create like a triangle shape this way, right?
Right. Right, yeah.
So, but obviously we don't want to be like standing this way all the time. So how do I find that same shape while I'm standing here? Well, doesn't have to be this extreme. It can be as subtle as this.
Right.
And then this angle here, the weak point is at my shoulder, so it catches me there, like that. What I do is I bring the elbow in, and then I create this angle into my hip like this. And I can apply a lot of force to that wall. I can stand on one leg like that.
Right.
It doesn't push me away. So then you have to find that in 3D space on different angles. So not just this one angle, but how can I find it like, say, this angle here? So if I push into the wall, it sends me away. From here, now I found like a different angle here. It's going into my leg here. So there's all sorts of different ways to train it, but it's best to train with a partner where they can apply force in different parts of your body.
Right.
Yeah. And that's how you receive energy.
Right.
And then redirect it back into them. And then there's another thing, which is just avoiding moving around it. So if somebody pushes, you don't have to just like receive it. You can also move around it like this.
Right.
So that's redirection. It's another thing. But
that's the sales call crap we were talking about.
that's like your Aikido, right?
Yeah. So you know, like a Makiwara, you know what a Makiwara?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah, that's exactly it. That's training that, because you've got this thing that bounces back.
Right. It gives you feedback.
It's trying to give you rebound energy.
Right.
And you want to be able to, when you do like your reverse punch, you're creating like a triangle shape. Hard to see, but
I can see, yeah.
Yeah. You're creating like a triangle shape into the ground like this with your punch, right?
Right.
So when it comes back, you don't want it to jar you like that. When it comes back, you want it to, you see how I can put the force into the wall like that?
Right.
But it doesn't have to be this specific posture. I can do it this way too. You know?
Yeah.
So it's coming from the, like here down there.
No, he can do it from like Heisoku dachi, like, you know, like parallel stance, and just, but when he does it, dude, it's like, it's a breath, like you can hear the breath, But then you can also feel the floor move, you know?
Yeah.
So there's obviously this triangle thing going on there through his lungs, the internal structure stuff, obviously.
Yeah, it's basically it's in modern, like what we would call in Newtonian physics. It's kind of like you apply force and then there'll be an equal opposite
Right.
force in that direction. So
Right.
you're using vectors, which is the shape. For example, in Wing Chun, we do the punch this way because when you hit that, the rebound energy will go down this way into the hip, the angle of the hip. But it doesn't mean you have to punch in that specific way. It's just a good way to learn it. So you
Right.
can kind of gives you this kind of upwards
Right.
upright thing. So if you kind of come under somebody like that, under their elbows, it'll lift them up like a shovel. You come under like a wedge.
Obviously, like practicing this with another partner and so forth, like develops this. But are you like imagining that imagery to help you embody it?
It's all touch sensitivity. So you learn how to feel where they're touch. You have to do it really slow. So you and very relaxed. For example, you have somebody stand there and let's say and apply force very gently on your body. So for example, you could stand there and then they're just like pushing on your shoulders very gently. Because your tendency will be to tighten up. And what you want to do is relax and see if you can transfer that into the floor. And then what you're looking for is as they push you more, you actually feel like you're stuck further into the floor. So it shouldn't push you away. It should make you feel like you're becoming like heavier.
Right.
And then if they have tension in certain joints as they're trying to apply force, you can learn to feel where those spots are. And then that rebound as they're pushing you into the floor, and you can kind of rebound it back into that. You can send it into their joints wherever the tension is. And that's where it breaks their structure. So if they're tight in their shoulders as they're pushing you, and then you send it back up and it will go into their shoulder and they'll pop like that.
So are you trying to identify?
If it's the hip,
Are you trying to figure out where their internal structure is misaligned and use that to your
you'll
advantage?
feel it. Yeah, it's a tactile sensation. You learn to feel it. And the really advanced guys, they can consciously decide where to send it.
Without,
Like they can go
as they're interacting with them or before?
Yeah, they'll touch you and then they'll go, okay,
They'll know.
I can feel like your left ankle. I'm gonna send it there, and then they'll touch you, and then you'll feel your leg come out under you. And those guys are super advanced,
Right?
And it looks fake on a video if you ever watch it. But I'm pretty sure Joe's teacher can do it. I reckon your teacher could probably do it. I don't know if he's conscious of it, but I think he has the ability. But basically you learn through touch where to feel their tension in their body, and then you learn how to send your power into that. Because when you're punching somebody, most people when they punch, they're just trying to punch really hard, and
Right.
what happens is they're just hitting like the muscle, like they just learn how to touch the muscle on the outside.
You're not going
and
into their
bruise it.
organs.
Yeah. So you can punch at the level of the muscle. You can punch at the level of the skin, the muscle, the bone, then the organ, that kind of stuff. And it's all learned through touch. It's it's difficult stuff. It's like a heightened sensitivity of touch. You can even go into the fascia, which is the connective tissue between the muscles.
Right. You were telling me about that last time. Yeah.
They call that fa jing energy in Tai Chi, and that's what they use to throw people across the room. Because with fascia, most people are used to tensing their muscles if they feel you push, they'll tense their muscles to resist you, right?
Right.
Well, fascia is the connective tissue between the muscles,
Right.
and most people don't have a sensitivity to that. So if you learn how to send force into that, they can't tighten up against it because it's a foreign feeling to them. So what will happen is they just won't do anything, and then they're like, oh, what the hell? I didn't even feel you like push me. It just kind of went into me, and they can't react to it.
How much of this we're really talking about like the internal structures? Is that what you call it? Internal systems or internal structures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could call it like internal biomechanics, or
Right.
it's like the operating system underneath the external look of the movement.
But it truly is physical. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like spiritual in a sense. It's like actually physical. Is this? You seem to allude or explicitly say that this is developed through touch, feel, partner, all of this work, or makiwara or something like this. I'm shocked. There's no use of imagery in this, or thinking, or imagining. There's like none of that. It's all physical development.
The Qigong side of it can help to a certain point, but you like just standing by yourself and doing Qigong, and some kind of imagery might help there in terms of learning how to feel energy, the Qi energy. Have you ever felt that kind of thing? Like that. Like maybe when you first were trying to learn it, you used like thought, right? To try to, but after a while, you can just feel it, and then you just learn to feel it, right?
Yeah, I find that, and this is like what our teacher does. He's, like kind of like warm up. You bow, you stand up, you're in, and what we do, we sort of mimic Sanshin kata, which is like breathing kata. Very slow, and you're like, they'll come behind you and smack your shoulders, make sure you're all strong, but you're moving slowly. But in the warm-ups, we'll just, okay, stretch your toes. Okay, now we'll stretch your ankles. Okay, stretch your leg. And what you're doing is you're making your way up. Like then you end with your neck, right? And so there's this physical movement, right, of you just looking or observing it, you would think, okay, they're just stretching, they're warming up, right? But it's taking Sanshin and like bringing it out and going, we're going to develop each part, and we're going to focus this. And what I've figured out, dude, is there's people who do Sanshin kata, like slow, and they're sweating because they're trying to concentrate their toes, their leg, like everything, not just in the movement. And it takes so much mental energy to do that, not just physical energy, it seems. And what I've seen our sensei do is he'll say things like, imagine your toes are like roots in the ground, and you're this tree trunk, and as it's a branch. So that imagery, it's like I immediately get alignment. But are you saying that that's sort of just like an on-ramp, and it's not actually, it's not something that you apply 24/7 mentally? It's something that just helps you get there.
Yes, correct. Yeah. It's to help you. It's basically bringing your awareness to connecting to the energy. That's why you're going through each body part slowly. It's to bring your awareness there. But once you can do that, you can do that without the thought.
You don't need the imagery anymore.
Correct. Yeah. That's that. And so what it's doing is it's building up your bank of energy, and then it's there.
Right.
It builds up it's like saving money in a bank. You keep adding more to it.
Right.
And over the years, it gets more stronger and more powerful.
No, it doesn't. Our currency is being deflated every single day, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's sort of, that meme that like there's like the dumb person, and then there's like the smart person, and there's the dumb person. There's like
yeah.
Like where Bitcoin investing, it's like
the problem is in the middle, but on the beginning and the end, it looks the same.
Yeah. Like Bitcoin investing is like just throw money into something your friend told you, and then this is like dollar cost averaging, and then throw money into something your friend.
Yeah.
I've seen that with like really 8th, 9th, 10th dan martial artists. They do Sanshin, and they don't sweat. Because I feel like they know how to conserve their energy to where they're not using mental and physical energy to draw awareness. It's like they're just using physical energy or something. They don't need the imagery. They're not thinking about it. It's not taking as much out of them. They're emanating energy as opposed to trying to build it up or something. It's like they have this reserve of energy where, yeah, it's like first stand, you're over here, and then over here, fourth, fifth, sixth stand, you're sweating on San Shinkata, and then ninth, 10th stand, it's like you're back here where you're not sweating. Something happened there in terms of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the sweating though could be all sorts of different things.
Sure, sure.
It could be all sorts of different things. It could be an imbalance that's being addressed, an imbalance of like an organ, because the energies connects through all the organs. So if it could be exposing an organ that's weak potentially, and that could be a cause of sweating. It could be other reasons why somebody's sweating too.
Interesting. Yeah, our sensei, he does a whole class back to back, and it's just like, does this dude ever sweat? He's doing it right. It's not that he just is more fit. There's something else there, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what you're saying. It's the alignment of organs and everything.
So, he doesn't need to use as much muscle strength to do the same thing. So this kind of training became more important as somebody got older and older and older in the martial arts, because as you get older, you're not going to have the kind of like cardiovascular fitness or muscular fitness or bone fitness strength as like a young guy in his prime, right? It doesn't mean those things aren't important. It's just those are some things that are good to develop, but as you get older, what becomes more important to kind of make up for that gap is the energy training, because the energy training allows you to, and the kind of biomechanical stuff allows you to get more out of less, essentially.
It does remind me. Sorry, go on.
Well, for example, with energy training, it's affecting things on an emotional level as well. So think about this. This might be a good analogy.
Yeah.
When you're sad or sick, you feel really weak, despite the fact your muscles are exactly the same as they were 2 days ago when you felt fine. You just suddenly, if you don't have the energy to do anything.
Right.
You can't muster up any power, and you feel less resilient. It's like things can affect you more.
Yeah, you're more vulnerable.
Yeah. And your muscles haven't changed there, but your organs have changed. Your organs are different. Your organs are a bit different. Your emotional state's different. And the organs store the emotions. So they're associated with different emotions. Like your kidneys are associated with fear, liver's associated with anger. You feel things in your gut, all sorts of things. You feel things in your heart, self-expression, all these kinds of stuff, right? And so when you're doing the energy work, you're leveling up how the organs function on a higher level, not just a survival level of like digestion and things, but like on a higher spiritual function. And that changes how your emotions start to operate. So you have less fear, you have more courage, things like that. And that becomes like a source of strength. If somebody punches you, it suddenly doesn't rock your whole system so much. If you're scared, like those slaps they do on the back, right? If you're like scared of it, you're like anticipating it, and it comes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll crumble, yeah.
When you get to that level and you're just like there, and it's just like, boom, it's just there. You're not flinching before it or anything, right? That's a state on the inside that's being developed.
Is it a spiritual state?
I would say it's spiritual in the sense of, okay, now we're getting a little bit, now we have to separate some things, I think. So, Eric would say it's not spiritual because there hasn't been an actual spiritual transformation, despite the fact that you're doing energetic work that's changing the state on a physical level. So I can kind of see what he's coming from, because, for example, you can develop these skills and be a fucking terrible person, be an evil person. So then you could argue that there's been no spiritual growth there. You develop the energy training in a combative form, but inside the person hasn't really changed in terms of they still want to, I've got to take everything for myself.
Yeah.
Fuck everybody.
Yeah. I gotta be Andrew Tate or whatever.
Yeah. So spiritual training would be, it might look similar, but it's, I'd say it looks similar, but I think it has to transform you as a person.
Okay.
But in terms of, if we're talking about spiritual as in like a metaphysical thing,
Yeah.
then yeah, it totally, there is a metaphysical part, which would be the chi training, because that's how you do the chakras or the organs or all that kind of stuff. The endocrine system is lined up with the chakra system. They're in the same spots. The endocrine glands is where the chakras are. So they're basically talking about the same thing. And when you're doing energy training in terms of like Qigong or the breathing stuff that you're doing, that's storing the energy in and circulating it and everything. So that, to me, I blur the lines between biomechanical and energy training because I see them as the same kind of thing, but they are a little bit separate in some. I would say biomechanically, it should lead you to energy training, and energy training should automatically have the biomechanics start to line up. So they're kind of together in a way to me. Yeah.
The spiritual metaphysics that you're dealing with, you're differentiating that with ethics and morality and values and integrity, all these other things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because some people learn that because they want to fuck up everybody.
Right.
So underneath, they still got all this shit, right?
Right.
And I've met plenty of great martial arts masters that were so underdeveloped in like so much scarcity and fear and like backstabbing and jealousy, like so much of that, and like unstable personalities, But on the physical, they had it all,
Even on the metaphysical, on the spiritual metaphysical, they're still dialed, but
yeah, I would call that like I guess bioenergetic kind of thing, which I would separate from spiritual thing.
So you wouldn't. Okay, so you're kind of You're not necessarily saying that the metaphysical biomechanical stuff is, or the chakras even, or energy. You're not even equating that now necessarily with spiritual. You're putting it back into the physical camp.
I think maybe this would be a good way to say it. Is that your organs and systems and everything have a survival function and then have a higher function. And you can train them in a certain way that doesn't like work the higher level, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that's where it is. So like, that's kind of where I'm like, for example, the work I do with Eric, a lot of it on the surface looks very similar to like energy stuff I did in the past for martial arts, but it's changing me in a holistic way, transforming me. Whereas the stuff I did for martial arts, it only affected like my combative ability, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it was almost like I was limiting it to that.
Right.
But you're using the chakras or the chi energy or you're using the metaphysical thing, but it could be used for not a spiritual transformation.
Yeah, okay. So if we're taking in your sort of worldview of spiritual transformation, and we're going to categorize that as more integrity, ethics, things like this, right? It does. I know you wouldn't classify it as that black and white. There is a blurred line between a lot of this. It's almost like a hierarchy or something. I'm curious to hear if you would then believe or accept or interact with the idea of, if somebody dials in their spirituality, their ethics, their integrities, their morals, I mean, like judgments, right? Like these are like, cosmic, like value system, right? Like if somebody has that dialed in or continues to work on that, is that higher leverage energy focus in order to build from the ground up holistically? Or do you would you say that no, you still want to work the physical, the metaphysical, the chi, or I'm seeing that there's this
Yeah,
there's this other
I think
thing.
it's all. I think it's all of it. Yeah,
It's all one thing,
because you still have a survival function of the body, right?
even if
So
you
you
are
still-
in a great deal of integrity in the world and so forth.
Yeah, like you still, your body still needs muscle training and stuff to be healthy. Like your brain could be completely dead or whatever, but like your body, your muscles still need to do stuff, right? So I think it's all integrated. It needs to be. I think the problem is when I would clarify not so much ethics and morals and stuff, because like that's important, but I mean in terms of energy stuff, I think it would be more coming from the direction of whether you live in fear, whether you feel like the world is out to get you, whether you feel like guided towards things, as opposed to I'm trying to calculate where I have to go and I got to make sure I get there, otherwise this thing is going to get me or something like that. I think that's kind of where it starts to.
That's spiritual
I
for
think
you.
I think the ethics and morals kind of come from that, right? Because
Right. That's wisdom there.
if you don't have that guidance that's outside of you, and you're kind of trying to create stuff based on information, if
Right.
that makes sense. Right. Like this is wrong because, and
Right.
then come up with all these justified reasons why it's
Right.
wrong, or
Right.
on an intellectual level. I think that's just kind of that happens afterwards. That's trying to understand something that's already there.
Make sense of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you can have all of these morals and ethics on an informational level, but still underneath that live in complete fear,
Right.
which means that or live with these ideas of strong jealousy and scarcity and fear and
Right.
feeling lack of guidance. You can have a morals and still feel all of those things. And I think the energy training, spiritual transformation is when those underlying things start to move forward.
Yeah, you said that, quote, guidance from outside of you, unquote.
Yeah, and it probably should be inside. I think internal guidance, but I think internal guidance is connecting to like God, and and not when I say out, and not like not information. It's probably the best way to say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I understand.
Like
Yeah.
true guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, guidance implies that somebody's guiding you, or someone or something is guiding you. You're saying that the way to tune there is to actually tune from within to something outside of yourself.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what spiritual training is opening you up to receiving more guidance. I think that's what it's really about, as opposed to you could do this kind of qigong energy training stuff, and then you get better at the actual combative form of it, but you could still be very closed off to the signals of guidance, But I would say it would probably be a good step in the right direction, because to get that internal structure and stuff, it does involve a lot of like listening to the insides of your body and what they're feeling and the sensations. And I think that's at least practicing the right direction to learning how to listen to guidance.
Yeah, I experienced this with Eric. I mean, you do it on a much more regular cadence, obviously, than I do. But I think I know what you mean. Like just drawing awareness to different parts of your body when you're in a certain state, and then following it, looking for the pain, just entering into that. It seems as if that's like a portal to internal guidance from outside of you. Is that kind of what you're alluding to?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least that's part of it, yeah. So So you can have like rehearsed patterns in your life, right? So for example, um, reacting as like the old self kind of thing in day-to-day situations.
Yeah.
And some people don't have awareness around that, and they just live their whole life reacting to events the exact same way. And they don't know anything else other than that. And then some people do know that they shouldn't do that, but they can't stop themselves. And I think that stuff is solved more from the energy side of things as opposed to just
Right.
most people solve that in the mind. They go, okay, I shouldn't do that.
They think their way out of it. Yeah.
I'm going to catch myself next time and not do that. And that's good, but it hasn't really solved why that's even coming up in the first place. It's just kind of, it came up, I'm going to counteract it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a band-aid.
I'm going
Yeah.
to try to counteract it. Yeah. And then what will happen is you get really good at counteracting it in that specific situation, and
Right.
something else will trigger it
Right.
in a different area that you haven't rehearsed, and it will just take you out.
It's the energy thing we're talking about where they'll identify, okay, the weak points in the ankle, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's on the. You could even call that just biomechanics. That, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say the energy side is more like how the organs start to function on a higher level.
But I
Meaning-
see it all. It's all the same thing. It's just it's showing up in like very simple physical forms, and then internal forms, and then spiritual forms, and then ethical forms. It's all kind of the
Yeah.
same thing, just with different degrees of depth. It seems.
Yeah, I think whatever we call spiritual is just something we haven't figured out how to like measure in a you know, and then the things we call biomechanics are things that we figured out how to measure in a boring way. Anything that sounds boring is physical. Anything that's not boring is spiritual.
Yeah. Plus, like this language, like literal Western Latin language, cannot contain like all the depths of spirituality. Like it's a different language. So us sitting here trying to describe it is silly. You know, it's something felt. It's another language.
Yeah, I do think it's all sensed, felt. Yeah, like you said. I don't think it's like in the mind.
Right.
I think the mind is just what we use to try to explain and make sense and communicate after it's already there or after it's already felt. I think that's
Right.
what the purpose of the mind is.
Right.
Most people, they try to go there first.
It's comfortable to
You know.
do that because we're so familiar with that. We can engineer anything, it seems. It's like it takes more courage or something, or more acceptance of pain or uncertainty to kind of go around the mind. It seems.
I'm the opposite, dude. I've always found people trying to push things back to the mind, to me, is so painful. Like school. I found school so painful. Because it's like they're trying to bring you back up there every time, bring you back up there every time, bring you back up there. That's why I found studying Japanese very difficult, because I did have to go into the mind to do that, you know? I couldn't just rely on... usually I bypass the mind for everything. And that's where I got really humbled with studying Japanese, because I had to like actively go into the mind to do it.
Is it important for you to develop the mind now? Do you see it as like an underdevelopment in you, or you see it as like a superpower that
I did
you can
before.
bypass?
Well, I saw it definitely before. Like that's, you know, when I first started studying Japanese, it really showed a weak point in me. Yeah, but I would say for most things, I'm usually kind of bypassing the mind. I think for that, it's super necessary. I think it's great for things like you're trying to schedule out, structure things.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom. It's like, that's great. Boom. But I think people use it to try to calculate everything in their life. And that's where it starts to, you know, create limitations, I think. You know, like, oh, what's your 10-year goal? A lot of entrepreneurs say.
Kill
and
me.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't fucking know.
Right.
Like, I could be wherever in 10 years, you know? I'm not going to think about what it could be, and it's like this small thing that I think in my head, and it could be like, you know, I thought animation was going to be my whole life, and then boom, suddenly switch into like singing and stuff like I couldn't predict that. My plan was like, oh, I'm going to start a video game studio. I'm going to be a game director, and that's like what I thought for years.
So did you remove the mind and then you saw the singing thing, or what was the switch? Tell me like what the pivot was.
No, I think I always operated in this way.
Okay.
Since I was young, I was always zoning out, always zoning out, and that became a problem. That's what I realized when I started studying Japanese. I couldn't like study it. I would just zone out, zone out, and so, the zoning out was good in that it helped me learn how to find like intuition and kind of go with what I feel I need to go with, but it could also make you struggle with things like discipline. And I think that's what the mind's really good at, like discipline. It's like, you said you're going to do this, fucking do it.
Right.
So I think it's important for that kind of stuff. But I think people just live there too much.
Sure.
And then they try to use it to figure out other things, that shouldn't be there. So I see it in musicians all the time too.
Sure.
They're like, oh, how do I write it? They try to, I got to write a hit song. The best songs. You shouldn't. The intro should be this many seconds long, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, just make what you think sounds good, and that's it. Are you telling me if you get a 15-second thing or 14-second, it's going to be a hit or not? Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's stupid. Yeah. It's like, what are we trying to do here? You're removing yourself outside of the art now, and now you're turning it into some fucking accounting job.
But even with you thinking you'd be this designer or whatever you said, like, you were still in the feeling, you weren't in the mind. You were just kind of following the guidance.
Yeah, I was following what I wanted to do, but what I'm saying there is that I never sat down and was like, all right, 10-year goal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna do this, and that's why I was able to, I guess, be open to switching into something that presented. Yeah, it just, I didn't question it. I didn't go, oh, this is not who I am, and I shouldn't do that. It was just like, oh, this feels good. Let's go there. Boom. It just felt right. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's being zoning out and going singing, did not see that coming. You feel like you're settling there, or do you feel like you find yourself zoning out again in life and being open to other things?
I don't really zone out so much now. I can tap into it without zoning out. That's how I used to do it, though. I just always zone out. I'll be zoned out.
Now you can switch it on.
Lose track of time, And I think that was an issue. That's where the mind has been helpful for me, because I can be more aware in the now.
Right.
But not kind of cut myself off from the future or the past or the flow, if that makes sense.
Sure.
The flow of intuiting through things. And that was a problem I had when I was like a kid. I couldn't remember large tracks of time. It's just like time was gone, So meditation, that whole like meditation thing, that I'd found that like traditional meditation, I sit down and meditate. That was like the easiest fucking thing for me. Never had, I couldn't see like, I was, they're like, oh, you're going to get all these distracting thoughts. I'm like, I don't. Right?
Even as a kid, losing track of time, you didn't allow your mind to wander through meditation?
I could totally zone out and lose track of time. And I'd just be like, what the fuck happened?
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of like getting distracted and stuff like that, yeah, I guess that depends on, see, some people, and this goes into some people when they do meditation, they're like, okay, look at this like dot on the wall and don't fucking think about anything else. To me, that's a mind thing.
It is a mind thing.
That's not that's not an energy thing. That's a mind thing.
Right.
Yeah. Because what that's doing is closing you off to I think that's closing you off to guidance.
Guidance, yeah.
Yeah. It's basically having you operate on a survival mode the same way as if, let's say some dude's standing in front of you and he's like, I'm going to punch you in a moment. And then you're going to shut off everything and be like, wait. You're reading his body or his shoulder moving. Oh, there it is. Well, and then you do that, right? So that's kind of like, I see it as that. I never resonated with that meditation. Never resonated with it.
So your meditation is actually welcoming a lot of the wandering thoughts and you kind of just go wherever.
That's how I used to do it. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different with Eric, but yeah, how I used to do it was just sit there and focus on the different parts of the body and feel basically try to get the energy running. Yeah. So kind of similar to what you explained, like I'd focus on like different parts of the body and I'd, like for example, if I sit here now and I stopped doing it because I learned how to basically do it at any point. So like I can do it right now. If I sit here, I'm feeling the connection between the knees and the hips. Now I can feel the legs buzzing and I feel the bottom of the feet to the knee. Boom. Now I got the whole leg flowing. And then what I do from there is I go, okay, lower abdomen. Okay, I can feel that. And I go root chakra. I can feel that now. Connection up to the spine. Then to the head. Now I go through the arm, the hands, wrists, everything. Now the arms, boom, it's all there. So I'll do that a lot when I used to meditate. And then what would end up happening is I'd kind of zone out at some point and lose track of time and an hour would have passed or something. And that's kind of how I used to do it.
That is similar to Eric's on-ramp.
Yes, it's different though. Yeah. It's different. So that's kind of, you do that while other things are happening. And you do it through movement as well. So you start to welcome, you give control to the body to start allowing it to guide you. And that starts, as your level of welcoming internally rises, the body will start to move you into different positions or things.
You follow
and
it. You welcome it.
You'll feel the energy open up more into different areas that you couldn't feel before. Like I used to struggle to feel the energy in certain areas and then suddenly it'd turn on. What you're practicing there is giving your control to the body so it can guide you. So you're basically practicing the act of welcoming guidance.
So the body is this sort of portal that you lean into it, you draw awareness to where your body's leading you. And as you draw your attention and your awareness there, you're bringing yourself into guidance from outside of yourself, through yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Seems like a time machine.
It is, because it speeds up your growth in terms of like things that changes that might have happened in your life that were reliant on like external events
right.
for you to change. You can just have those changes without having to get smashed by life. You know, if that makes sense.
Sure it does.
That was a big fear I used to have for a lot of my life, was that I didn't know how to articulate it. It was kind of like, I hope something terrible doesn't happen to me for me to learn some lesson, you know? Like I saw this video of this dude, he was a rock climber and he got stuck and he had to cut off his arm or something.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Between a Rock and a Hard Place. And he was serious. Sorry, I know. I just want to add a little bit of light to this.
That's good. I wonder who convinced him the name of that.
Some cheesy publisher in New York was like, "I got the perfect title for you."
Yeah. You're making light of his situation, right?
Like literally, life. Like the guy went through such agony. He cut off the nerve, and it just. Can you imagine the psychological torment he went through? And now he writes a book called Between a Rock and a Hard Place.
I know.
Anyways, go on.
Well, I've seen not just him, but I've seen other people who have had like incredible, like nightmarish things happen to them like that. And then they always go on these speaking tours, and then they kind of like share these like transformations they've had from the event. They're like, oh, you know, I thought it was this bad thing, but actually I've learned to live life more now and all this stuff. And I used to watch that stuff like scared. I used to be like,
the only way to learn those insights is to have those terrible things happen.
yeah, I was like, I don't want to have to go through that shit to learn that. Like, can't I just learn that a different way? Like, do you really have to have that happen to you to learn that? Like, so that's kind of, I always felt that, but I didn't know how to say it. And what I'm learning now is that's kind of what this training, that's really what spiritual transformation is, I think, is like you being able to grow without life having to force you to do it. Because if you don't grow, then life has to step in and make you change. And it will keep hitting you with something. You know, I'm sure you've probably experienced this before.
I mean, this is like my life right now, for sure.
You get like a sign, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're like, oh shit, I got to do something, and then boom, you kind of come out the other side of it.
Yeah. It either you submit and change and enter in, and that's that, or you ignore, and then boom, lightning. And pray that you learn from it, because it'll happen again if you don't.
Yeah. So you saying it's a time machine is really, yeah, I see it that way. Because it's kind of like, rather than having to wait for things to get bad and for things to like smash me, I can just do the practice and start to grow from that. And, but another distinction is you're not doing it so that because you're afraid some shit will happen to you. That's not why you're doing it. But
right.
It's I think that's like a good way of describing the difference between, I guess, spiritual training and like concentration training.
Yeah.
Which is like that kind of meditation where you keep your mind on one thing. I think that's more concentration training for the mind. Good for like discipline, concentration, or like energy training for the purpose of combat or like physical health or something like that. Because you could still do that training and still not have a sensitivity to guidance that's kind of taking you somewhere, and still fight and question and hate your life, and you know what I mean?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, dude, in this state of awareness and you being able to sort of live multiple lives in one now, it's a time machine, right? You can really, anything's useful from any point in time. You can access it at any moment, so you can learn these lessons, right? How does that interface with the inevitable challenges that life throws at you? Do you look at those as, oh, is this some other lesson? Or like, I thought I didn't have to go through this. How do you interface with those trials?
I think it's important to understand that you're not going to be invincible. Like, you're going to still have ups and downs and challenges, but not to see the challenges. Okay, this is a good way of putting it. So there's less frustration, there's more welcoming, there's more like not doubting. There's like less of the doubting, less of the questioning, less of the frustration, less of the impatience. And it's not to say those things are gone, they're still there, but there's less of those things. So which is different to like, I guess how I used to operate would be like, I wanted to be that way. So I would try to like counteract the doubts or the fears by thinking positive, right? Like, okay, I'm going to turn around. So that's still operating in the mind because I'm mentally trying to reprogram or brainwash myself, if that makes sense. What I do now is I don't try to do any of that. I don't try to think positive. If I'm frustrated, I'm just frustrated. Whatever. All I do is I just try not to judge it. So if I'm pissed off, I'm just like, yeah, I'm pissed off. And I just try to redirect back to the center. But I don't try to be like, I shouldn't feel this way. Okay, things are great. Things are great. Things are great. I don't do that kind of thing. Which is how I used to try to handle it. And I just let I just bring it into those frustrations or doubts into the energy training. And then I use it there to level up further, if that makes sense.
Sure, it does.
Yeah. So if I'm having doubts or I'm down or whatever, it's like, that's just where I'm at. And I have like you have like a faith that grows of like, there's nothing wrong. Like there's nothing wrong going on. This is fine. And there's a reason for it. And I just keep going with the training and something's going to pivot from that. There's something's going to be, it's for growth in some kind of way, you know? And I've always felt deep down even I'll be really frustrated in life and stuff. I always felt deep down that I was being guided anyway, that there was a faith that things are going to work out anyway, right? Even like I used to be broke and wouldn't know where I'd get my money for rent for the next week. But I just knew inside like, something's going to happen. It's going to be fine. I don't know how I know that or what it's going to be or what's going to happen. And then something would always come up at the last moment, you know?
So it sounds like just you're strengthening your faith.
Strengthening your faith, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Strengthening your faith. But it's not from the level of the mind. That's
right.
The difference.
Yeah, because when you're down and out and you can't, like, you literally don't know where things, no matter what you can do, I guess you could hustle and make something happen. But I'm assuming you're referring to points in your life where it's like, no, I literally have no idea. I really just need to hand this over, and then something happens.
I think that's why I found faith bigger than myself or bigger than what I could calculate in my mind. I think I found that from a young age because a lot of the stuff that I felt stuck on in life were things I literally didn't know what the action steps were to fix. You know?
I do.
So there were things like I don't even like if someone gives me the steps, I'll fucking do it now. And I just didn't know what to do. So I couldn't turn anywhere else, right? I had to like pray. I had to have faith that there's a reason for it all, you know? And I think I found that because I couldn't maneuver around it in any other way. And maybe that's why some people don't find it, is because they can maneuver around their situation.
They're too clever for their own good. They're unwilling to submit to it.
And we don't want to wait for life to make us submit.
Yeah, we avoid pain.
It'll hit you so hard until you can't fight anymore and you have to give up control, and then that's how you get your way in there. But it takes so long for that to happen. It's like those videos you made in Incubator where you were saying like most of you have like a couple of events that have beat you. That's where you had a transforming moment. But if you wait, two things, if you wait for that to happen, it could be like, that they're separated by 20 years or something, and so long before something changes, right?
Right.
Like some people go through their whole life, and then somebody dies in their family, and then they change.
Totally.
But they have to wait like 40 years for that to happen, you know?
I do. You think that there are some people that are destined not to receive the like helping hand, like they're backed into the corner, right? They literally don't know what to do. They're not clever enough to engineer, whatever it may be, and they need to submit. Do you think there's some people who are in that state and they actually just, they're not met with the sort of salvation that they need. You know what I mean? Like something always turns up. Do you think there's people where that's just not true for them?
I think it can be more difficult for other people, for some people than others.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, like, the, Mark's magnet people, the energy guys, and
Right.
Eric and stuff, they'll talk about stuff like generational karma and stuff like that. So they'll say that there are certain patterns or behaviors that you have that are kind of inherited, and they could be more like stubborn or hardwired or challenging to kind of overcome. And some people have those, and other people are challenged in different areas and stuff. So, yeah, I think for some people it can be more challenging for sure. Yeah.
Anybody in this world who it's so challenging that they're kind of doomed, like hopeless, helpless?
Do you mean, like, from which perspective do you mean that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, do you mean they won't change, or do you mean like it's destined that they won't change?
It's destined that they won't change.
I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea. I believe there's free will. Yeah, I don't think, but I think the cards you're dealt from your karma and stuff as you enter here,
Right.
Some people have a deck that's harder to work with, I think.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
generational curse up and down the ages. Yeah.
And that's kind of what the energy training's working on too. It's working on stuff from your karma that would be probably seen as like a curse, but you can use it as ammunition
Right.
to actually skyrocket further.
It's a
Like, people
redirection, it seems. It's a total redirection of that power, that energy.
The way Eric explains it to me is it's kind of like weightlifting in terms of like, if you want to train your muscles, then struggling, like putting more weight on the bar, it's seen as a positive thing, despite the fact that it's more resistance, right? So with weightlifting, we see more resistance as a good thing. But in life, we see more resistance as a negative thing. And what he's explained to me is that the karma is all of this generational inheritance of resistance and tension, and it seems like a curse. But spiritual training is how you use tension and resistance and negative, what you'd call negative kind of stuff, as a resistance to strengthen the muscles of the it's almost like spiritual
muscles. Yeah.
Yeah. So without the energy training, it's just, you kind of can't use it. So then it would almost be like taking that heavy barbell and then, like, instead of lifting it, I just like lie down and put it on my chest, and I'm like, oh, I can't move. Like, this thing is fucking, it's not helpful. But it's helpful once I see that I can do it for this, So if I know how to use it for the training, it can be seen as a tool that benefits me. But if I don't have that training, it's just this thing that sits on my back and just like fucking knocks me. Like, it's like trying to walk to the shops with that thing and, oh my God, it's so heavy. Does that analogy make sense?
Totally. It is kind of funny to just be on your back with the weight on you and be like, this isn't helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. You go to the gym and you take all these plates and then you like lie down and you're like, why is everybody like this? This fucking sucks. I can't move.
Yeah, my running joke whenever my brother is like, you should come to the gym with me. I'm like, gym? No way. Those weights are heavy.
Yeah. That's a really good way of describing it. Yeah.
It's like those
Because
things are heavy.
that's how we see our karma. It's like, oh, this sucks. This is all this shit that
Right.
I didn't do it. Why do I get hit with it? You know?
Right.
I think that's that's Eric's describes it as like buckets of like empty buckets of water or something like that. You're carrying all these buckets that they've given you, and you're like, I gotta carry all these fucking buckets. And the meditation is you can take those buckets to the water and actually fill them up. Now they're useful. Without that kind of training, you're just walking through life holding these buckets. It's just like, what's this for? You know?
It seems as if your faith muscles are
they get stronger.
Totally. It seems as if that's the linchpin. That actually is the foundational point for you. Like everything emanates from those moments.
I think so, yeah, because if you with more faith, you have less fear, less doubt, less questioning, because even if you don't understand
right
where you're at or why something's happening, you don't have as much resistance to it, you know? You're just kind of like, I know I'm on the right path, you know, regardless of what's going on. So but when you have less faith, you start to doubt more, question more. Why is this happening? Why am I not there yet? What the fuck's happening? Even if things are going great in your life, you might start to think, well, what if it goes away next year? What if this is the last time I ever experience this? So you could actually have a really good physical life, but if you don't have faith, you can start to worry, is this going to last? So now it's a whole different thing, right?
Right.
So people could be poor or rich and experience the same
feelings, yeah.
Feelings of scarcity and like fear and then those feelings will start to cause people to behave in ways like jealousy or greed or like closing off to people or feeling like they gotta like steal from others to make sure that they're okay, all this kinds of shit, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what I meant by like you could have all this martial arts training and still be living in that kind of state. Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Like Joe was telling me about this guy that this famous teacher that Austin taught and Austin like refused to teach the guy because Austin could see this dude was like, there's something wrong with this guy. And he didn't want to give him all of this like external like power, right? That somebody with these internal development in time, their spiritual development was low, and he could see that I don't want to give this guy anything that would basically make him a very powerful person on the external way where he could hurt people. And that in the old Chinese martial arts, they were very strict like that. They wouldn't teach. Just like, you couldn't just walk in and just teach you shit. They wouldn't do that. They really had to make sure that you were had good character and that you could be developed in that way and open to being developed in that way. So they would kind of stick you in the corner and make you sweep the floor and shit for months. And if you start like freaking out, fuck this, they'll be like, I ain't teaching this guy. He's psycho.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like testing like your faith, right? So this is all through generations, and that's kind of what Bruce Lee got a little bit in trouble of when he came to America and he started teaching white people, and the Chinese systems were like, you can't do that. You're just like openly teaching people, and like we have this way of doing it where it's like closed and we got to make sure like we teach the right people. You just can't just spread all our secrets out there and stuff. And so he got like challenged and everything, and he had to fight and all this stuff.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to this like character, virtue, ethics, integrity bit. It does seem as if physically, metaphysically, spiritually, you can get at it. But that development kind of inside out, ethically, spiritually, whatever it may be, while you can get it developed through all these practices and so forth, that seems to be something that needs to be developed through faith in those moments. If you're open and willing to sort of relinquish control and submit yourself to go, I really don't know. There's nothing I can do about this. And then have the sort of the, I don't know, the breadcrumbs of consolation or relief in those moments to go, okay, keep going, strengthening your faith. It seems as if that's the thing is the underpinning of your character, your ethics, in your training. At least in my judgment, that's what I can see what you're saying.
It's kind of what I was saying to you a while ago, that like energy training wouldn't interfere with your
right.
Religious study with God, because it would only strengthen your faith.
Right.
And then you'd find that what you do in your religious practices would just be amplified. You'd be able to connect deeper into it.
Right.
And you'd be able to hear God even more.
Yeah, more vividly. Yeah. 100%.
And you receive the guidance more, and your prayers they're just amplified.
Totally. Right? Yeah, magnified, yeah.
Because I think it's really all coming to a central core. It's
right.
You know, of what all these things are. They're
totally.
Yeah. Because energy comes from somewhere, you know. It comes from God. Right?
Right.
And there's an order to things, how things were created.
Yep.
So whether that's the Chinese system or whatever, it's that they're hitting at the same way to connect to God.
Quite right. Yeah.
And the body is the tuning fork for that, essentially. It's like how your receiver and transmitter or whatever it is, you know.
Mm-hmm. I do.
To receive the message and to transmit out, and it's like that. Yeah. How would you describe it in mastering?
No,
like signaling or something. What did you say?
No, I mean, you're right on in my judgment. I'm thinking a more theological approach where God, you know, like in recording, the A to D conversion, like analog room, digital over here, like something needs to transfer to the computer. Like it's the digital converter is your interface, whatever, the A to D conversion. They have these incredible I/O converters where you don't feel that friction. It happens instantaneously, but there is an intercessor there. In order for, at least this is my worldview, in order for God to interact with his creation in the most leveraged way possible, he actually needed to incarnate himself in the body, become Christ. Or he is Christ, but he needed to incarnate himself. And he existed always, eternally, Alpha, Omega, but in order to transcend, to three-dimensionalize himself, he needed to show up in the person, the body of Christ. I mean, there's tons of theology and literature around this idea of theology of the body, and how the incarnational part of things, the fact that we all have a body and that he identifies with us by coming to us in flesh and blood, there's a reason for that, more so than just to be a sacrifice or something. It's more than that. It's the time machine, because I mean, now I'm getting theological here, but the cross itself, you know, that's a time machine. Like heaven, earth, and hell met through a body, and that access point there changed all of history, and we can access that at any time. So I don't see what you're saying is like combative or of a dissonant frequency to like how I'm developing my process and my faith and so forth. It seems to be just very much integrated, like another piece that helps me see things more clearly, honestly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that we need to like talk about that more, I need to go train. I have class in an hour.
I gotta run too. Yeah.
Dude, we should do this again.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
So lovely. On this video thing, by the way, dude, sorry to end this so abruptly, but like this video thing, you captured on your end, I captured on my end. I'll just send you all the files, and then like let's put it together. And like I'm envisioning like either just, you know, your camera external, my camera external, and like it's just there, or it's like can go back and forth, or I don't know how much editing we want to do, but I'm envisioning something like that. But we can talk about that later. But I'll send you all the files so that at least you have it, or maybe you could send me your files and I can put it together. But what do you want to do?
I'm down either way, dude. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Whatever's easiest for you.
Okay, cool. Either way, I've got it. I've captured it.
Sweet. Thank you.
Dude, so great hanging and chatting.
Yeah.
Let's just like try to do this again soon, like next week or the week after or something.
Sounds good, dude. You going to martial arts training now, are you?
Martial arts, yeah. Patrick's actually staying down the hill because he's in for the event. I'm going to pick him up on the way, go train, head out to Palm Springs, and then come back for the event on Friday.
Great.
He's going to come.
Dude.
He's going to train. I don't know if he's going to train. Maybe he is, but he's going to come watch me train, I guess, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I was it Patrick? No, I met with Rich yesterday or the day before, and he showed me some clip of you doing at the karate tournament when you were like a kid or something.
No way.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, probably at a tournament when I was doing kata or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we use
you
that
had
for
short
VSL. Yeah, real high and tight. Yeah, my dad's a very militant kind of person. Yeah.
Well, how's that go now with you? With that?
Well, there's probably a reason why I have long hair now. It's this contrast thing. It's like you're not gonna, you can't tell me what to do. You know.
Is that the reason, or you just got it because you like it?
You know what, man? I'd like to think that I just got it because I like it, but there's probably a little bit of remnant of Rage Against the Machine there. Which is low energy.
That's crazy. Yeah, you should just be doing shit because you like it, man. Fuck
Totally,
all the other
dude.
stuff.
Totally.